The running back class for the 2025 NFL Draft is loaded with talent, from first rounders to fourth and maybe fifth rounders. Me and Keith are going to present our dueling top 10s. What are the similarities? What are the differences? All that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over on Locked On NFL Draft. DP. We're talking running backs, baby. We're talking the ball carriers. We said this. We we treat running backs well over here, man. We on team pay the running backs. And so, we each came up with our top 10 list, right? And what we want to do is just have a discussion, right? Go 1 through 10, have a discussion about those guys, and then just talk about this running back class overall, which we both believe is very talented. But we'll tell you how talented it is. But before we have this conversation, DP, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, Keith, let's go ahead and get into our list. So, guys, before we have the discussion, I'm going to go through my top 10, then go through Keith's top 10, and then we're going to kind of talk about the guys at the top, go forward from there. So, number one overall running back for me, Quinshon Judkins, transfer from Ole Miss to Ohio State. Coming in at RB2, I have Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. At number 3, I have Ollie Gordon II from OK State. At number 4, I have Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State. At number 5, I have Phil Maffa out of Clemson. At number 6, I have Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. At number 7, I have Devin Neal out of Kansas. At number 8, I have Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. At number 9, I have Donovan Edwards from Michigan. And at number 10, I have Damian Martinez. So let's flip over to Keith's list. Keith, at number 1, Stan Pat, Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. Number 2, Omarion Hampton. Number 3, he has Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. At number 4, he has Ollie Gordon II. At number 5, he has Nicholas Singleton. Coming up next at 6, he has Phil Maffa. At number 7, he has Devin Neal. At number 8, he has Trevion Henderson. Number 9, he has R.J. Harvey out of UCF, a new name thrown to the mix. And number 10, we have Georgia running back Trevor Etienne, the younger running back of Travis Etienne. Keith, let's start at number 1 and 2. Let's start with Quinshon. Watching Quinshon, I think just a complete array of skill set. Pass protection, pass catching, speed. We talked about it, multiple times. My comp for him is Kareem Hunt. Dense, physical build. He looks like he can tote the rock 25 times back in 2002. He looks like one of those type of running backs, Keith. But I looking at his ability to make plays in the passing game, also the contact balance and then burst in open field, like this is a playmaker, man. Like as a freshman, I think he had 1,500 yards. Over there with the lane train, as you call him over there. 1,500 yards, and that was when they had Zach Evans, who was supposed to be one of the best running backs in the country, and he just took the job from him, man. So this young man's talented, and now he's going to that Ohio State situation where he's expected to be the kind of the RB1, and now he also kind of saves his body instead of having to take 200-300 carries.
Yeah, I think with Quinshon, you get a nice blend of size, power, and an element of elusiveness also. And I don't know if people realize just how thick and powerful his lowers appear to be, right? So I wouldn't say he's an old school running back, like not, you're not talking about Earl Campbell type of old school, but maybe he'll give you elements, and I don't know if the height, so don't quote me on the height, but just like one of those Eddie George type guys, to where they big, powerful guys, but they also there's an element of elusiveness to them. Like they can move, right? And I think that's what Quinshawn is. I really appreciated his contact balance, right, and his and even in physical matchups where defenders may get a good get good contact on him, he's able to battle back, right? Like he was just that
Yeah.
powerful in the matchup. So really like Quinshawn Judkins, thought he's a talented football player, have him as RB1. Right now with DP, I'll say it's really close, man. It's really
Yeah.
close because of that number 2 guy, Omarion Hampton. I'm gonna throw out an early comp DP for Omarion Hampton. I thought of Josh Jacobs. He reminded me of
Mm.
Josh Jacobs. So just his build and everything and movement skills. But I really like the Marion also.
Yeah, Marion, like, going through cross checks over at the Draft Network, when I finally got eyes on him, because I knew he balled out last year. Of course, I had North Carolina in my region, so watching Drake May, be able to see this young man, go and do his thing, listed at 5'11, 220 pounds, where Quinshon's listed at 6 foot even, 220 pounds. He might be 5'11 as well. We don't know. So, they always add an extra inch to the height of colleges. But watching Omarion, like, this is a violent runner. You're talking about explodes through contact. He's got that rocked up bowling ball type of build where he's going to pinball off of contact initially. It's hard to bring him down as the first defender because as you talked to, even with we talk about Quishon, the lower halves. Like this young man has strong lower half of his body to be able to power through arm tackles. Right, he protects the football. He's strong up top, but also like he wants to finish you as a runner. Like he gives you that old school field,
Mm-hmm.
um, to where it's like, all right, yeah, you want to try and just bring him down to the ground, but he's got a nice little stiff arm. Like he's a physical runner, and I love that from him. Right, he has good open field speed. He's got a bunch of runs 10, 20, 30 yards down the field. Back in 2023, it's gonna be interesting to see now that you're not because in 2023 he wasn't the guy that teams geared to stop. It was Drake May, right? Let's get to Drake May. Let's get to Drake May. That was the third overall pick. That's for good reason that you should be game planning against Drake May. With Drake May gone, I can't remember who their quarterback is at the particular moment, but for North Carolina, changing the guard at quarterback now changes the emphasis and the spotlight to Omarion Hampton, to where teams are going to know defensively, you're going to know you're the ACC. Clemson's not trying to stop Drake May. They're not trying to plaster the receivers. They're trying to stop you, Omarion. So it's like, that's why I'm going to be very interested to see how the coaching staff handles it. How can you like lighten the box to where defenses just can't gear up to take him away, as we've seen from like running backs in similar situations where we've seen guys go from having a good quarterback to having a okay quarterback, and the defense is like, yeah, I'll take my chances playing man to man, and your quarterback got to throw the ball over our heads. Where we're not going to let you have the rock 23 times, 210 yards, and 4 touchdowns. We're not going to let you dictate the game like that. But to me, I think both of these guys, if you remind me if I'm correct, I know I gave both of them first round grades, Quinshawn and Omarion. I think these guys are day one starters in the NFL. They have the build, they have the open field speed. The run is different because, like you talked about with Omarion, he's a more physical guy, where Quinshawn is physical and great contact balance, but he's more elusive. So he'll set guys up, make you miss in the alley. And I love that change of pace that he brings because it keeps the defense honest. Like with Omarion, you have to, what's the phrase, hard hat, lunch pail? You know it's going to be a hard work day because it's going to be physical. With
No, I
Quinshawn, it's like, I don't know how I'm going to attack him one-on-one because he could power through me or he could juke me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I gave them both first round grades also, and it was actually exciting to see these guys from a build perspective also, because we're kind of on a. It's been a while since running backs consistently came in at 6 foot, 225 pound, right? Like we're getting a lot of the smaller, elusive, shiftier, 200 pound threshold, 205, but to see these guys at 220, 225, right? and just be, I guess the right word is just to be complete units, right? As a running back, it was actually exciting to see and to able to observe. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man, because we talked about the top of this running back class, but I'll say this: this may be one of the most talented running back classes that I've ever scouted from top to bottom. So I want to talk about running backs 3, 4, and 5 because honestly, they all have opportunity to finish as RB1 in this draft class.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel on this podcast. Why? Because they are America's #1 sportsbook. You've heard us talk about preseason odds for MVP, Heisman, college football playoff opportunities and chances, all of that. All those preseason betting odds, we've talked about it numerous times on this pod. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And guess what? You can cancel any time you want. So just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to download America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to download America's #1 sportsbook. Keith, you said that this is one of the best running back classes that you've scouted in recent history. Keith, yeah. I have 13 right now, 13 day 1 to day 2 grades on running backs right now. Like 13 of them. Like that's just how good this class is. And you still got guys like Dallin Hayden, Jordan James, Woody Marks over at USC, guys that are going to have big time opportunities to even improve their grades once we get to the 2025 actual NFL draft. But when you look at the list, I have Ollie Gordon at 3rd. You have Ashton Jeanty at 3rd. Let's have that discussion real quick. Well, Ollie Gordon, you just mentioned it. We haven't seen running back classes that have this many big bodies, right? Like Ollie Gordon is listed at 6'2", 225, almost 230. And this guy had 1,700 yards rushing for Oklahoma State last year. And nobody can really name the quarterback. I think it's Alex Bowman. But nobody really knows like his actual skill level to know if, okay, is he an elite quarterback? Is he one of the up-and-coming risers? What is he? Everybody knew Ollie Gordon. And this guy, his mom comes from track background, so he's got a lot of athleticism in his bloodlines. Physical runner, a guy that it's going to be interesting to kind of see, can he replicate the 2023 success? Because I felt like he popped up on the scene and nobody knew he was on the way. You know what I mean? Like nobody had that expectation for him.
I still think, honestly, DP, even with him, and I think, did he win the Dope Walker last year?
I think he did.
I think he won the award for being the best running back in college football. I still think his name is kind of under the radar in some capacity, just because there are other running backs at higher profile schools, right? And so obviously, like I think people know more about Trevion Henderson or Donovan Edwards than what they do about Ollie Gordon, right? And the talent that he is. But man, watching Ollie Gordon and just understanding what he is as a running back, like you said, you're talking about 6'2", 225 strider. Just one of those, and it's you wouldn't like the immediate comparison is going to be one of the Derrick Henry types, right? Just because of how upright he is and things like that, and just that stride length that he has, kind of high hipped, high waisted guy. But I would say a smart runner also, right? He's a guy that doesn't have to rely solely on power. Now, would I like him to use power more from time to time? Yeah, like get in between the tackles and do your thing, right? But at 225, 230, 6'2", right? It's like I think that should just be a matter of just telling you to do it, right? It's not. I don't think that should be a long transition to you becoming a power guy.
Yeah, I mean, some of his accomplishments last year, Keith. Doak Walker Award winner, best running back in the country, unanimous All-American, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, like first team All Big 12, right? Like he checked all those boxes, right? He was super accomplished. I got a name I want to throw out. You tell me, is he, in your opinion, do you think he's a more athletic or explosive, like long speed version of Najee Harris?
I like that comparison more than the Derrick Henry comparison because Reason I'll say that is because I think maybe Najee had more lateral elusiveness to him. I think, like you said, he's the straight line version of that because both of those guys, I think Derrick Henry ran with more power, right? Like he wanted physical matchups, right? He was gonna
He's
run
a
with.
menace.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's almost unfair, right? Like he's 240 and he's gonna do 240-pound things to people. So I think that those guys, we talk about Najee Harris and Ollie Gordon, I think they compare because they lean more into the elusiveness element, you know what I'm saying, making people miss in space and things like that. So I actually like that comparison more of Najee Harris, which I forgot about him, than Derrick Henry.
Yeah, like I said, the Derrick Henry comp. Like the first time I saw him, I was like, man, he does look like Derrick Henry a little bit. You know what I mean? From build, the size, like I said, high hipped, kind of broad shouldered, that upright running style. But Derrick Henry runs with like a violent intent. Like he's going to how many defenders has he put on? Man, even going back, I think you might have been in college at the time, coaching. I think it was a Michigan State game where he stiff armed a 300+ pound defensive tackle and made the dude cut a front flip. And I was just like, this isn't normal. Like, you know what I mean? You don't see stuff like this. He's always just been a freak of nature in terms of what Derrick Henry is. And Ollie Gordon, really good player. And like I said, that long speed version of Najee, teams are absolutely signing up for that, right? Like they drafted Najee in round one. Why can't Ollie Gordon go in round one himself? But Ashton Genty, for Boise State, another guy jumped onto the scene last year, listed at 5'9", 217, 215. Keith, I gave him a high second round grade personally. This is to me, this guy can go either way. Like if it's a team that buys into him as RB1, cool. I think they could use him as an RB1. I can see teams absolutely saying, listen, we got to establish top guy, and he's our change of pace back. That Austin Eckler was a full-time back over for the Chargers, but that type of runner where he's a good runner back, but his A trait to me is pass catching. He's a problem in space and matched up, whether it's the screen game, route running, whatever, against like linebackers and stuff like that. Ashton Genty, dense build, strong, good contact balance. He's got some crazy runs on tape where he's get caught in the backfield and he's able to bounce off of contact and still get 20, 30 yards upfield. Really good player. The size, listed at 5'9", 217. The height, I think, is probably there. I don't know if he's 217, though. So it's like, I wanted to see more closer to what you talked about, 205, 200.
Yeah, you question the overall weight. I question the height. I don't know if he's 5'9". I thought he was 5'7", to be honest with you. So just
he does look small on tape.
Yeah, he does. And I'll say this, that I had a tough, because we kind of texted about it a little bit, right? But it's kind of cool to talk about. I had a tough time just going through the process of grading him because I was asking myself, hey, is this elite traits or is this good traits, right? Because like it'd be some really spectacular plays and it just kept bumping against the threshold of, is this elite or is this good, right? And, then I had to bring into the level of competition. I'm like, okay, these defenders that he making miss, right? Is that the Mountain West Conference or something like that? I'm like, okay, will that be just a tackle in the NFL, right? Or is that a broken tackle for me? Because I think he had one of those crazy stats where he led college football or something like that in broken tackles. So, that's an A trait. Or am I like, hey, I'm simply overthinking this thing, right? Like, just it is what it is, whether it's elite or good. He's effective at what he's doing. So Genty was a difficult grade for me, and that's why I say I think this is my initial running back rankings. But jumping back into it, whether that's the middle of the season and really observing these guys throughout the season, I think it's going to be important because, like we talked about, they all so talented. Like, and Genty came in at number 3 and number 4 for us, right, on our respective list. But he's RB1 for a lot of people in the draft community, right? So he's also
he got those Kareem Hunt comps a lot this summer.
Yeah, a lot of people talked about him in that light. So you have to understand that this is, once again, right, he's number 3 and number 4 for us, but for some people he's number 1. So really talented, smooth transition type of football player. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing. And coming up next, man, we're gonna discuss the rest of this list, running backs 5 through 10, right? What are some names to know and how high do we have these guys ranked and graded for the 2025 NFL draft class? Coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I know for myself, I love to take my family to live events, right? You know, having my son, having my goddaughters and nieces and nephews, taking them to go see Disney on Ice, right? Taking them to monster truck shows and everything. Just going to live events is so much fun, especially when you're doing it with your family. And of course, with Game Time, you get the seat views before you buy, so you know what vantage point you're going to have, all that and more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets or any tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, one of my guys that I gave us a high second round grade to, and he came in number 4 on my list. Was Nicholas Singleton from Penn State, and he had a really good freshman year. And truthfully, first of all, like, can we talk about the fact that this list that we have is mostly juniors? Like these lists that we have are mostly juniors, and I think they're all from like the same exact recruiting class or similar, right? Like when Nicholas Singleton was a freshman, so was our boy Quinshon Judkins. And I feel like because of the fact that he also came in to Penn State with a freshman, Katron Allen, who's a good player in his own right, they fed both of them. So it wasn't a, hey, we just feed you and you have 1,800 yards. It's like, no, you're going to have 1,100. He's probably going to have 800 to 900, and that's what we're going to run. And you had a veteran quarterback, Sean Clifford. Drew Allard and that passing offense didn't give these running backs in Penn State the same amount of space and room to work with in 2023. I hope that changes for 2024, but I look at him and you say anybody can climb up from that middle part of the rankings to RB1. I think it's Nicholas Singleton, man. Like when I watched him, Keith, I walked away with like not, and I want to preface this. I'm not saying he's Saquon Barkley, but I gotta preface it. I don't want nobody to misquote me. Like DP said that we got another Saquon Barkley at Penn State. I never said that, but he's listed at 6'2", 225. And the speed once he gets the ball in his hands, like he runs hard, but he's got angle beating speed. Actually, Utah after the 2022 season, that bowl game, early 2023, he had like an 85-yard run where he's literally, and there's still DBs 20 yards upfield, and he just cuts through everybody straight up the field. No one can catch him. He beats angles on the perimeter, working outside. I think this guy has the complete skill. And what I did love about him in 2023, he started they threw the ball more to him. Like they lined him up as a receiver through quick screens and smoke screens at Michigan State. He had like a 45-yard, almost took it to the house if the DB didn't undercut him. But like the ability to get the ball into his hands in space is going to be a big thing for him because he runs hard. He's got the NFL build and size, and then have that breakaway speed. Now we can throw the ball to you and get you the ball in space as a receiver. That's a nightmare. And I think that this is a guy that could leapfrog if we can get back to that freshman campaign. We got to get this passing game at Penn State going and help this young man out.
Yeah, DP, I'll tell you one thing. I didn't realize he was that tall. I didn't know that I don't know why. And it's probably because of his build, right? When I was watching the film, that he's built like Quinshon and Amari and Hampton, right? These guys that are closer to like 5'11" and a quarter or something like that. Because in my opinion, he has thick lowers, which are good for like power. And it's funny because you said that and you threw out Saquon, but I thought he was of, I would say, smaller stature. So I was going to ask you, was he Miles Sanders, right? But he can't be Miles Sanders. 6'2", right? He's too big.
No. Well, he's 6 foot, almost 6'1", 6 foot.
6 foot, yeah. So it's still bigger than what Miles Sanders was, if I'm correct. Yeah. But I'll say this, DP, that watching him, another guy put in a complete unit category, he has an opportunity to elevate himself into a high ranking, potentially talk about being a RB1. Because if I ask myself when looking at him versus Quinshawn and Amari and Hampton, right, outside of carries, DP, and it being on film, the physical profile and athletic profile is awfully similar, right? With these guys, with the short area quickness, the burst, the ability to make you miss, run through tackles, open field speed, things like that, right? And I think with this class early on, and I'm projecting, what we in August? I'm projecting 7 months out, right? Projecting being at the combine. I think a
Yeah.
lot where this class is going to shake up is going to be in the 40 time. And running back is one of those difficult positions where you don't know who's going to run a 4.55 and who is going to run a 4.35, right? And I think
Yes.
all of these guys kind of jump it up together. I think it's going to make for a fairly fun conversation. But DP, I won't talk about them, but I want to talk about some other guys towards the back end of the list. I'm gonna mention my two names that I threw on the back of my list.
Yeah.
Trevor Etienne, the younger brother of Travis Etienne, totally different body profile, right? Travis was 6 foot, 205 pounds. Trevor is 5'8", 215 pounds, right? Totally different running backs. But you see the vision, you see the acceleration and burst in the open field. So good player. I don't know if I foresee him being an RB1, right, in the offense, but a very valuable piece in the offense. But then the last guy I want to mention is RJ Harvey. And DP, I don't know if you got eyes on him yet. Footwork, footwork. You're going to appreciate this guy's footwork. Just such a natural runner. Always, what I put in my report, DP, this guy's always in control of his own body. And it's just I was just so impressed with watching him, and I was like, hey, I put him at I think RB9 or RB10 on my list, but it's like he makes you question. You know what I'm saying? Should I pass over one of these guys and I could go get this guy in the later round potentially, or how high will he elevate in his UCF offense as far as with his production? And then now people saying, hey, this guy's a ex running back, whatever that may be.
No, I'm excited for one. I'm gonna get eyes on him later on today, but I'm excited for his 2024 season because now he already got a stud wide receiver in Kobe Hudson out there, but now bring KJ Jefferson in to be the quarterback. Like that changes things as a running back when you have a guy back there with you at quarterback. The teams got to worry about as a passer. He can push the ball down the field. He's got a big arm. But then also he's a runner himself. And talking about KJ Jefferson, that's a unit by himself. So you think about the read option game, we might see some option out of there, like that speed option, sprint option, stuff like that, where you got to pick your poison. Either I'm going to take the quarterback and then he pitches to RJ Harvey, or I jump to RJ. Now I got a 240-pound, 45-pound running quarterback that my cornerback has to tackle, right? Business decisions will be made when that situation comes about, Keith. But guy that I want to talk about, first I'm going to go to kind of bottom of my list, and we talked about this. Trevion Henderson still on the list, but he's further down than he would have been last year. He probably would have been our RB1. It was my RB1 for the 2024 NFL draft class. And we said this, it's a risky thing to go back to school with the talent that college football has at the running back position. And you see where he lands on both our lists. I think I have him at 8. You have him at 8. Same thing. And when you got like guys like Devin Neal and guys and for Trevion, it's going to be staying healthy. Now he will have the caveat that Quinshawn is going to take some carries and touches from him to where his body doesn't have to take the beating. But teams are always going to wonder, can you be our bell cow with you being banged up each and every year you've been in college football, outside of maybe 2024 when they gave you a running mate, right? But Phil Maffa, Keith, this was a guy, and I think somebody left a comment and was like, man, I don't see the speed with Phil. When we did the summer scouting profile on Phil Maffa, when I talked about him, it's like, I don't see the speed with him. And I'm like, I do. I see good burst. I see good speed for him, especially for a guy that's 6'2", 230, 235. He looks the part. Like you see some guys that listed at 225, 230, like, you're a little leaner than that. You're a little leaner. No, not Phil Maffa. Like he looks that and more, and he runs with it. Like, and what I appreciate was that game against Kentucky, going up against an SEC competition, right? SEC defensive line, SEC linebackers, and he had a good game against them. And now with him being the guy, also working on his pass catching ability, catching the ball. I think that with Garrett Riley now, Garrett Riley going into year 2 in this offense, maybe we start seeing them split him out Similar to how we talk about with Nicholas Singleton. Let's get this big boy out in the slot, throw some quick screens to him, and allow him to gear up and then make these cornerbacks tackle him in space. I just think this is a slept-on runner. I had him at 5 for me as my 5th overall running back. I know you got eyes on him. I wanted to get your thoughts on him.
Yeah, no, I like Phil, and so the speed thing did come up for me, and then I kept watching the film, and I'm like, okay, and the truth is, maybe he's not a 4.3 athlete, but he's fast enough, right, to be effective, and I liked his ability to run in between the tackles, to run outside, right. I thought that he was just a talented football player, and he was once again, like we talked about, these big body backs that are big, that are strong, that are powerful, thick lower halves, but also there's an element to where they can make you miss. And so when we're looking at them and they hold those sides, right, I'm saying like, hey, this guy has a case to be a RB1 for a team, right? And I said this in last year's draft, and it'll be my statement as we wrap this up. Last year I said if you need an offensive tackle of your NFL team, there's no reason why you shouldn't have an offensive tackle, right? This year, my statement is going to be: if you need a running back, there should be no reason why you walk out of the 2025 NFL Draft without a valuable running back, because this class, and we're still, DP, there's still more names, right? Guys that are going to be new starters in new places that we haven't seen yet at premier programs. You're talking about Alabama, Georgia, right? Like Texas, right? All of these guys that we're still waiting on. Texas A&M that we're still waiting on to come out. So we'll see how that thing go. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you can hear this podcast, go ahead and hit that like button on YouTube. Don't forget to comment, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my co-host, my guy, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's episode, we're going to keep this top 10 rankings going. Let's get to those wide receivers, those pass catchers. Tator McMillan, Travis Hunter, Luther Burton III. These are some talented guys at the receiver position. Who do you need to be paying attention to just in case your team needs one next April? Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.